Good morning, everyone, and welcome. My name is Alisa Slazinska, and I work for the City of Chicago, Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection, BACP. Welcome to the BACP Business Education Workshop Webinar Series. We have adapted our regular business education workshops at City Hall into these webinars until further notice. On behalf of our Commissioner, Rosa Escarino, I want to inform you that business licenses can be processed online where applicable by visiting chicagobusinessdirect.org. And all websites and emails that I mentioned will be posted in the chat box, so you'll be able to reference them there. And if you are part of the BACP Entrepreneur Certificate Program, you can get credit for joining this webinar by sending an email to bacpoutreach@cityofchicago.org. If you want to learn about the program, please visit chicago.gov/business education. To help guide your business and employees during Chicago's reopening process, please visit chicago.gov/reopening. The website also includes the recent modifications and updates to Phase 4 guidelines. Also, BACP and the City of Chicago's Office of Emergency Management and Communications created ShyBiz Emergency Alerts. You can opt in to receive targeted emergency alerts for the business community. If you are interested, please visit chicago.gov/ShyBizAlerts. We encourage attendees to ask questions. Please use the chat box and send your questions to all panelists. There will be a question and answer session at the end of the presentation. Today's webinar will be Nuts and Bolts of Business Planning and Financial Readiness for Startups. It will be presented by Geri Aglipay, Small Business Majority. Welcome, Geri.
Hi, thanks, Alisa. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's online training and presentation, Nuts and Bolts of Business Financial Readiness and Planning for Startups. My name is Geri Aglipay, and I am the Midwest Outreach Manager for Small Business Majority and the National Entrepreneurship Manager for Small Business Majority. You're probably wondering, what is Small Business Majority? We're actually a national 501c3 nonprofit. We've been around since 2015, and we have national offices across the country. We're an education, policy, and advocacy organization. We focus on issues of the top importance to small business owners, including the self-employed. Now, what is the definition of small business owners for our nonprofit? That means that people who have under 100 employees, and again, of course, the self-employed. What are the issues that we engage in on providing free education as well as advocacy engagement for small business owners? Well, it's access to capital and combating predatory lending, healthcare, retirement security, entrepreneurship, taxes, and more in regards to what supports the safety net system for entrepreneurship, such as paid family medical leave, income tax credits, and such. We engage in extensive policy research. We also have an online resource hub at venturize.org that brings free resources and education to small business owners such as you. That's venturize.org. If you're wondering how to be engaged in Small Business Majority, we are not a membership organization. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. So you simply sign up for our newsletter to learn and engage in our education, but also in some of our advocacy efforts if some of you would like to become spokesperson on some of these issues that you feel strongly about. For instance, federal relief to small business owners during the time of COVID. PPE subsidies for small business owners during the time of COVID are some examples of what we are engaged in nationally and through our federal office in DC. Again, our online resource hub at venturize.org provides resources and education to you as small business owners. This is just an example of our business model as a nonprofit. We engage in education, research, advocacy, but we also provide networking opportunities for you. In this presentation, I'm going to go over why entrepreneurship, the nuts and bolts of planning and financial readiness for small businesses, business model, business plans, and financial foundations for success, including credit and avoiding predatory lending. Now, why entrepreneurship? Well, small business ownership can actually provide the freedom to create income and build wealth. Some of you may not be aware of this, but owning a small business is the second best way to build wealth in the United States. Again, owning a small business is the second best way to build wealth in the United States, next to actually home ownership. The challenge is understanding how to make sure that that business is viable. Simply having a small business doesn't necessarily mean that you are earning income and revenue to build wealth. Why do we have small businesses? Well, one, people want to capitalize on business opportunities to earn income, right? That's going to be your main source of income. Others actually want to create a part-time endeavor with their day job or night job, and it supplements their earnings, maybe even as a college student, as a part-time business. Or again, as I said earlier, a full-time business to provide a main source of income. You can either operate as a self-employed entrepreneur, which, by the way, 95% of Black-owned firms are self-employed firms in the United States, or you can be a small employer-based firm and employ people. Employing individuals helps to create jobs. It also helps to assure that dollars get reinvested back into your community by being a local neighborhood small business. Most especially if you are a female-owned small business, creating jobs is one of the hallmarks of closing the gender wealth gap, where women make less than men in the workplace, but also for retirement security, being a small business owner as a woman helps to close that retirement security wealth gap. Because in this country, women retire with 80 times less wealth than men. Not 8, not 16, but 80 times less wealth than men. So knowing how to run a sustainable and viable small business, especially for women, for everybody, but especially for women, to close that wealth gap is extremely important. As you see here, sustainable small business revenue helps to create income, not only for your business, but for yourself, where you can invest and save. And that is how you build wealth, through small business. I'm going to go over some free resources for you to get assistance that is of no cost later on in this webinar. Now, October is National Women's Business Month. And I wanted to highlight most especially Black women business owners through our history. One of you may have remembered the show, I Love Lucy. Well, in this case, we like Lucy. Throughout history, we've had Lucys in America who have been successful Black-owned women business owners. There's Lucy Foster. She was enslaved in Andover, Massachusetts as a young child. She actually later became Lucy the entrepreneur. After she was bequeathed $50, an acre of land and a cow. She made herself a name in Andover, Massachusetts by sewing and running a tavern. There's Lucille Bishop Smith. She was known as the first African-American businesswoman of Texas. She created Lucille's all-purpose hot roll mix for a church fundraiser. But that business grew so that American Airlines and even the Lyndon B. Johnson White House bought her biscuits to be served as well. Then here in Chicago itself, we have Lucy Olivia Knox. Lucy Knox was the owner of Shea Olivia Salon in Chicago's Woodlawn neighborhood in the 1930s to the 1960s on 63rd Street. This is a picture of the storefront, and this is actually a picture of Lucy Knox. This is also courtesy of Hyde Park Historical Society as well. So I want to honor and commemorate the legacy that women, small business owners have had in this country. And given that it's also October is National Small Business Women's Month, that Black women as business owners have contributed. We do have a legacy to carry on with women business owners and seeing them grow. There has been exponential growth over the years. So with that, I hope that's something that will inspire many of you who are on this webinar about continuing the legacy to grow successful small businesses and especially close the wealth gap for all, but most especially for women. Now, let me get back to driving revenue and income for your small business. What drives revenue and income? Well, first of all, you need a product or a service that's going to give revenue. You need customers. You want people who are going to be interested in buying it. You also need human resources. Is it just going to be you producing that service or product that's going to be delivered? Are you going to hire temporary help? Are you going to hire full-time help? Are you going to hire part-time help? At some point, including yourself, there is an element of human resources. There's also strategy. You need a strategy to make sure that you have efficient operations. Efficient operations means you don't have leakage somewhere in your budget. Leakage meaning you're not bleeding money somewhere and you're not losing it from costs that are inefficient. You also want to market your business and your services or products. Make sure that you're marketing it to client demographics that are going to be purchasing it. Understand how they are going to be aware of your products. If, for instance, you're marketing for people 65 and older for a certain product where it would help with exercise and non-slippage and breaking bones, chances are they're likely not going to be on TikTok, for instance, for social media to promote your product. Understand the channels which the audience that you are targeting to purchase your products and services are frequenting. Also, what helps to drive revenue and income are having access and managing and knowing how to use financial planning tools and concepts. This is most especially important, and we saw this and continue to see it in the wake of COVID-19. Understanding the business plan, and that's always going to be shifting based on economic conditions and how you will respond. Applying a break-even analysis so that at the end of the day you're not losing money, but even if you can't gain some revenue, you're at least breaking even. How do you do that? Learning about cash flows projections. That's basically projecting out and estimating how much money your business is going to be creating in the next week or the next month or the next year. Now with COVID-19, people have been recommending and that you switch from quarterly and annually cash flow to even weekly now because there is so much uncertainty. The bottom line, though, is financial planning tools are going to help sustain a business, especially in adverse economic conditions. I'm going to go over business model and the business plan on starting a business. So, a business model, sorry about that. What is your business model when you are starting a business? How do you determine that? You're probably wondering, well, what's a business model? It sounds so Ivy League, Harvard Business School. Simply put, the business model is how you plan to make money, largely based on what Michael Lewis, financial journalist and author, said. It's just, how do you plan to make money from your business? What are the services and products that you're providing? How are you going to sell this product or service? This goes back to what we noted earlier, marketing and your strategy and understanding your customers and your internal controls, how you deliver that product or service to your targeted customer. How do you do that? Now you're probably wondering, well, how do I determine what my business model is? There's a lot of great worksheets and tools that are there to help shape your business model. There's a business model canvas, there's a lean startup canvas, there's an idea napkin, there's so many. One really clean and simple tool to start with at a very basic level, and this is just an example, is called the idea napkin. The idea napkin is one simple worksheet that you may want to follow when you are determining your business model. I'm going to show you now what that business model worksheet, this is just one of several that are out there to try to determine what your business model is going to be, and this is the idea napkin. The idea napkin, you can actually download this by the Business Institute as well, the toolkit. You're simply, you print out a few of these. As your business model and idea evolves, print it out. It's basically writing down on the back of a napkin idea of what your business model is going to be. Who are you? What are you offering? Who are you offering it to? I'm going clockwise here. Who are you offering it to? Again, who are your customers? Why does this person care? Are you feeling a need? Are you feeling an interest? Are you feeling a hobby? Are you feeling a want? Why would that person care? And finally, what are your distinctive competencies? We're probably wondering what does it mean by distinctive competencies? Look at it as like government KSAs. KSAs are knowledge, skills, and attitudes. What are your distinctive competencies? For instance, I once had a gentleman say, I think, a lawn care business. And the question was asked in class, what skills do you have? He said, I used to mow lawns. Great. The person said, I'd like to employ teenagers. The question arose from class then, have you worked with teenagers? No. Okay, well then that's a consideration that you may want to put down. That is not a distinctive competency of working with teenagers if that's who you would like to employ in terms of human capacity. However, what else have you done in terms of running a lawn care business? I actually maintain 3 lawnmowers because I help my family out with mowing their lawns. I know how to maintain them. So these are distinctive competencies that you may have. Skills, knowledge, attitudes. Like being outdoors? Great. What are your distinctive competencies that make your business model, the service or product that you are creating and delivering, what does it make it happen for your business model? What makes it conducive to making it a successful business? So this is just one, again, of many tools that are out there, but this is something that myself and many of our partners use, is the idea napkin. It's not the only one to use to determine your business model, but it's a very simple and helpful one, especially when you don't have a lot of time. Many business owners start off part-time while working their full-time job. And by the way, don't quit your day job. Not unless you want your business to actually be full-time income that you're going to depend on. Do not quit your day job. Now, the business plan. After you move from a business model, you're going to slowly see this flesh out to your business plan. This is going to always be an actionable document, a living document, because your business plan may change again, especially if there are adverse economic conditions like we see with COVID-19. The business plan is going to help you focus. It's going to adapt when your actions need to, and it's also going to change as you start and grow your business. It helps you test out your model in the beginning and your idea with your target market. The business plan also helps to guide your decisions and may even save you time and money once you have it mapped out on paper. It helps you to understand your industry landscape and the demographics. For instance, if you wanted to start a bookstore, there would be a question of, naturally, why in the time of Amazon? When we don't see many bookstores open, and then you would go back to your business model and try to figure out what makes that a viable business. You want to identify whether your target customers are appropriate. And that's where your business plan gets more fleshed out from the concept of an idea napkin here, okay? So you're now moving slowly from the business idea, the model, to now a plan where you're fleshing things out. You target whether your customers are appropriate. Are you marketing them in the right channels that your customers would like to see so you can continue to get business or even grow it? Can you even justify your business model to others on paper? Is it legible? Is it readable? Or is it something where you're still at the stage of this, an idea napkin and squiggles and doodles? This is completely legitimate. This helps you. This is the seeding your business idea and your business model, more technical term. This one is now fleshing it out to make it a reality. The business plan helps you to communicate and justify your model. It also helps you, as your business grows and evolves, as it evolves, to obtain business funding anywhere from $200 to $200,000. That business plan is going to help communicate what your business is about on paper. Now, there are two types of business plans. Some of our partners require when you work with them for free assistance that you develop a traditional business plan. Some others require that you develop what's called a lean business plan. Lean business plans are short business plans. Traditional business plans are more lengthy. They can contain multiple pages. I know there are some of our partners throughout the city of Chicago and Illinois that want you to do this because they would like a business owner to think through what their business plan is. There are others who would request that you do a lean one before you move on to a traditional. A traditional is usually used, especially if you're going to take your business to the next phase of growth or funding, most especially if you're seeking, 6 to 7 digit funding, basically. 6-figure funding to 7-digit in the millions funding. Maybe even 5-figure funding for some funders if you're moving higher to close to $100,000. A lean business plan is short. It could be a few pages, it could be 1 page, but it'll contain key elements, again, mostly though on 1 page. This is used when your business model is simple, or even if you have a complex business. It's good to have an eagle-eye view of your business plan, and this is where a lean business plan may help. I'm going to show 2 examples, business model canvas, which is a lean business plan, and a traditional plan. And just hover over it for about a minute so you can take a look at the difference between the 2 types of business plans. Here's one. This is a type of lean business plan. This lean plan is a model called the business model canvas. Limited again, as you see, to 1 page here. I'm going to have you look at it for just a minute. What you have here is who are your key partners to the left. What are the activities that you perform every day? What's the key resources that you have? In the middle section, what's your value proposition? What value do you deliver? What need do you fill? What help do you provide? What pleasure do you indulge in if it's a certain service or product? What's your value proposition? What are your customer relationships? Moving to the right. What relationships do you have and do you expect to establish for your business? What do you need? What are the channels that you foresee? Again, this is like an eagle-eye view of a type of a business plan called the business canvas. 1 page. What channels do you use? Customer segments. Who are your customers? If it's everybody between 6 to 22 years old. Oh, okay. But how do you segment that out? What makes them different for your customer segment? If it's a video game or an app. On the bottom here, to the right, what's your cost structure? What makes it a value proposition? What are you going to be selling things for? Your revenue stream is cost structure is to the left, revenue streams to the right. What are your revenue streams? How do you sell it? Is your income through 3 products, 2 of them online, 1 of them in person? What are your revenue streams? Are you also, if you're a coffee shop, selling mugs and t-shirts? That's 2 revenue streams. You're selling, retail food through coffee, maybe food as well, through beverages, maybe even food. But then you're selling a second revenue stream if you're offering t-shirts and mugs. What are your revenue streams for your business? So that's a business model canvas, 1 type of business plan, kind of an eagle-eye view on 1 page. Now, this is a traditional business model, business plan for your business model. As you can see here, it's multiple pages long. This example is a business plan for a fast food restaurant. You can see they've done an in-depth market analysis, a strategy and implementation summary in which they've actually examine the competitive edge, a summary of who their neighbors may be, what their sales strategy and pricing is going to be, their sales forecast, their management summary, who is the personnel in the business. This is very, very important for the financial plan of a traditional business plan. This is extremely important, especially if you're looking for funding. You know, what's your startup funding? What's your operational funding? What is your business plan, the traditional business plan? However, there are pros and cons to both, depending on which action you need your business plan to inform you. This traditional business plan actually helps an individual to flesh out in more detail what's happening, especially if you're looking for funding. This one is also helpful, too, to look at your business from an eagle-eye view. It's also legitimate to show to funders as well, in addition to maybe even a traditional business plan, depending where you're at. They're both wonderful tools and documents for two types of business plans that you may find helpful for your business. One is a one page, one is a more detailed. There's no right or wrong way. Depends on where you are with your business. So, financial foundations for success. Financial organization of your business. You want to make sure that after you've identified your business plan, business model, marketing strategies and such, there are moving pieces that are also happening. In order for your business to be a business on paper and also receive funding and also maybe even contracts later on, you must financially organize your business. That means establish separate business bank accounts before you make your first sale. Make sure you're using budgets as well. Make sure that you're also secured a system to organize your record keeping and files. What this means is you should be keeping records of your financial records, your statements, your bank statements, but also non-financial records, contracts, partnership agreements, MOUs, rent agreements, lease agreements, mortgage agreements. All of that should be organized. Again, before you make your first sale, ideally, especially establishing business bank accounts. Why do you want to establish a separate business bank account? We saw this happen during COVID. Many business owners, especially self-employed, did not set up separate business bank accounts, or if they did, it wasn't an actual business bank account. In some cases, they were personal accounts. You need to make sure that you have a separate business checking/savings account. This is much different than setting up a personal account type. Different. What you will do is you're going to make sure that you track your business income and expenses in that separate business account. And it cannot be commingled with your personal account. It also, the benefit of having a separate business account is that you can save for business cash reserves. Cash reserves is money that you need in an emergency. You have a bakery, axle fell off the truck, it's only going to cost $300. Instead of pulling on your credit card where it's 19% interest rate, you just use your cash reserve for that. So you always need to make sure you have cash reserves. At best, on average, nationally, business owners have approximately roughly a month. However, we're not, in Chicago, we are trying to make sure that business owners and aspiring business owners, like many of you on the call, are aware of the importance of business cash reserves. Many individuals and owners in Chicago have business cash reserves of less than 7 days, especially in certain underinvested neighborhoods in Chicago. The importance of growing your cash reserves cannot be understated. So I'm sharing this with you because this also will help you save on money as you grow your business. When emergencies happen, it may be best to pull on a cash reserve than to pulling on a line of credit where the interest rates on a credit card is going to be quadruple that instead of pulling on a cash reserve. So establishing a business bank account will also help you save for emergencies for your business, and also not draw down on your personal accounts where you should be saving from your business for your growing your wealth. Another reason why you need to separate your business finances from your personal finances is for tax reasons. Your business expenses can actually be tax deductible, so keep every receipt. Track your business revenues too. It's one thing. If you cannot separate your business finances from your personal, you have a challenging time understanding if whether or not your business is doing well because they're being commingled with your personal funds. You need to understand how much you've actually made from your business. And it's difficult to do when you commingle that with your personal funds because, Elisa went to the movies with a mask, but she drew that from her business bank account. And we know that because she happened to deposit $500, but drew from that $500 from her business bank account to do it. That's not a wise thing to do, again, because then you have trouble extricating what your actual business income and expenses are from your personal. And also funders, banks, and it's difficult to track that. Bookkeepers as well. It does not help with legitimizing your business on paper. Another reason why you need to separate your business finances from your personal is that for your own security and personal liability. If you decide to incorporate as an LLC, you are legally required to set up a separate business bank account, separate financials. And you do that using an EIN, employer identification number, and not your Social Security number to protect your identity. Even if you don't decide to incorporate and you want to just be a sole proprietor, you should still create a separate business bank account. Okay, I'm going to emphasize this here. Whether you're a sole proprietor or you're incorporated as an LLC or a partnership or a C Corp, whether or not you're incorporated or remain a sole proprietor, it is essential you create a separate business bank account from your personal one. Ahead here, budgets. Make sure that you're using budgets to prioritize, plan, and control your expenses. You can review that against what your actual business revenue and income is and adjust your budget. Now, as you're starting up, you're going to have two types of budgets. You're going to have your startup budget. These are your costs in the initial stages of starting up. And it's usually going to be one-time expenses. And then you'll have your operating budget. This is a budget where you're going to be laying out your fixed costs, variable costs, regular expenses, non-regular expenses that you foresee in order to operate your business daily, whether or not it's full-time or part-time business. So you're going to have ongoing fixed and variable costs with budgets. So make sure that you create a budget. Again, you can get free assistance from resources that we have, which I will go over at the end of this seminar, including BACP. They are wonderful partners of ours. Please continue coming back to BACP to access some of the free trainings that they have. Now, this is an example of a startup budget. Okay, one-time cost in starting up. Child care center startup cost. This is drawn from sampleforms.com. You can see this, or you can reference this. You may have one-time costs of your business cards. You may have one-time costs for fencing in terms of setting up a child care business at your home. One-time cost to secure a phone. One-time cost for your initial licensing. That doesn't include annual licensing. So, but these are your one-time costs, your startup costs from a business startup. Again, this is a startup budget. After that, you'll move to an operating budget. Monthly budget, this is just one example, to determine your annual budget. Now, I copied this from a spreadsheet. This is the importance of using electronic spreadsheets for your budget. This example is a T-cart. This is a budget for 12 months. This is a budget where if you look down on expenses right here, this actually is your expenses right here. Your budget are the expenses that you see. But the nice thing about an electronic spreadsheet is that you can also forecast what your revenue is going to be on, in this example, on top. And an electronic spreadsheet, not only will it give you what your budget's going to be for the year under the section of expenses, but it will automatically calculate what your foreseeable profit may be as well. Okay? That's the benefit of an electronic spreadsheet, is when you create a budget, it can also automatically spew out basically other information that you may need to determine whether or not you need to increase production in a certain month, summer months when business may be low, or winter months and such. And it'll automatically calculate all of that for you. So make sure that as you're starting up, you also, when you're going through the phases of your business model, business plan, setting up separate bank accounts, as you're working with your budget, make sure you understand the difference between your startup budget and then your operating budget, which is ongoing. Now I want to move into financial record keeping. I know this is a lot of information because we went over your business model, basically your business idea, how you plan to make money, how you put that on paper, moving from the business model to a business plan, and then starting to set up financial readiness, including budgets, separate bank accounts for your business. One of this, another one that goes hand in hand with creating separate bank accounts, which I referenced earlier, and I want to go into a little bit more detail, is financial record keeping. Record keeping is just as important as setting up separate business bank accounts. It's also important because it helps to save you money and find funding. Make sure you keep organized financial records for your bookkeeping, either secure Excel spreadsheet software or QuickBooks or other trusted software that's out there to manage and track your expenses and your revenue or income. Make sure these financial statements and records, you start organizing it as early as possible. Really recommended you secure financial record keeping software or tools before you make your first sale. It goes hand in hand, right hand, banks, left hand, record keeping, working together to make sure your business is financially viable before you make your first sale. It will also help keep your financial record statements, and such things will help you produce your budgets, your cash flow statements, profit and loss, sometimes known as income statements, whether you're a nonprofit or for-profit, and a balance sheet. Balance sheet is, assessing what the health of your business is as well. Financial record keeping means tracking your receivables. What are the assets? On your financial statements, they're called assets. What are the payments due to you? Who owes you money? You track that in financial record keeping rather than a post-it note here, post-it note there. Financial record keeping will help you understand, hey, who owes me money? I sent them 50 masks. I've only received payment for half of it. It'll also help you track how much capital you've received from loans or equity investments. But it also helps you track the value of your assets that are goods and merchandises. But it also helps you track how much you owe other people. What debts do you owe? What's your monthly rent, your fixed cost, mortgage, your monthly utilities? What are your annual and quarterly taxes for payroll? That will help you track financial record keeping. Software will do that, whether it be spreadsheets or, again, QuickBooks and other software such as QuickBooks. It's extremely important. Again, as I said, I'm going to use a visual here. Right hand is bank accounts, left hand financial record keeping. Work hand in hand to make sure your business is financially viable. Non-financial record keeping, again, legal documents, for instance, bank documents, your licenses, your certificates of incorporation. If you decide not to incorporate, you're doing business as certificates as a sole proprietor, contracts that you may have as a franchise maybe, or with your partners, By the way, make sure you even have a contract with your spouse or relative if you're in business with them. That is going to be very helpful when you're seeking funding as well. Property documents are also non-financial record keeping, but they affect finances. So this is why, quote unquote, non-financial record keeping is important, because they also ultimately will have an impact on your business finances. So make sure that they are clean and organized and you have a system. So I'm going to put it all together now. Kind of stop here and how to become a legal business on paper after going through business bank accounts and financial record keeping. Some of these steps is, one, how do you do that? Well, one, you want to decide your business structure and a business name. Check to see that your business name has not already been taken. This is before you set up your business bank accounts and the steps to become a legal business on paper. You check to see that your business name has not already been taken. So it can either create a business name, Geri's Empanadas, or you can put the business in your own name. Geri, Medical Esquire, JD. By the way, I'm not a JD. I'm just using that as an example. You file the paperwork with the appropriate city, county, or state agency to formalize your business structure and your business name. Now, what does that mean, a business structure? In general, most small business owners start up as a single owner startup. So there are three main business structures that people select. You can either be a sole proprietorship, you can be a single owner LLC, or an S corporation. These are the three most common structures for your business. If you select sole proprietorship, you will apply for a doing business as certificate from the county. After you apply for the certificate, as part of applying for that certificate to be a sole proprietor, there is going to be an additional fee to list your business in approved publication for a number of weeks. Then you get your certificate. You are then a sole proprietor on paper because you've gotten your doing business as certificate and you've paid that fee. And by the way, that fee is part of your startup cost. Okay? If you decide you don't want to be a sole proprietor and you would like to incorporate your business as either a single owner LLC or an S Corp, you then apply at the state government level. In the state of Illinois, you would go visit the Secretary of State's website. It is also at the Secretary of State's website you can see if you wanted to create a business name that it's not already taken. What you will then do is your paperwork, whether you're doing business as certificate or your certificate of incorporation from the state, you go online to irs.gov. That's when you obtain your business tax ID under the business name. That's how you obtain that. You obtain a business tax ID after you've decided how your business is structured, either a sole proprietorship or an LLC. Then you go to irs.gov and obtain a business tax ID under that business name. And it takes minutes, less than 5 minutes to do that at the IRS. And that's how you will set up your business bank account. You will also then obtain accounting software, as I talked about earlier, so that you can track and record financials. And then open your business bank account with that EIN number that you've secured in step number 2. You take that EIN number, and that's when you go to the bank and open your business bank account. Don't use your Social Security number. It's a common mistake business owners make. Please use your EIN number. That's what it's there for. After you've secured software to open your business bank account because you've already decided your business structure, then you can start opening the doors and creating sales using your account and financial systems. Now, I know this is a little confusing. It might be, so I'm actually going to go through an example here so you understand. This is not intuitive. There are many business owners, colleagues, and friends who I know and Elisa knows who are engineers, who are lawyers, who are, advanced mathematic degrees. This is not the most intuitive understanding of steps to be a legal business on paper. In fact, I have a colleague who had her own lawyer, and she's a lawyer, walk her through this physically. How to open a business bank account. And we're talking to you about this because even though we've always said for years you have to get a separate business bank account, we realized during COVID not very many people understood the steps that you need to get a business bank account and simply thought it was as easy as opening one. And oftentimes that may have been the improper account or they weren't incorporated, many reasons. So this is why we're going over this with you today. Now here is an example of what I just said. Okay, oops, sorry, go here. Roxanne Roxstar. In this example, how to be a legal business on paper, Roxanne just got her plumbing license. When she completes her apprenticeship as a plumber, she actually wants to leave her job and start her own plumbing business. But before she obtains insurance and starts doing any business for hire, Roxanne took the steps to become a legal business on paper. One, she decided she wanted to incorporate. She could have become a sole proprietor, but she decided in this case, in this example, to incorporate as an LLC. She also decided to use her own name, Roxanne Roxstar, licensed plumber. What she did was she went online at the government agency, in this case, State of Illinois, Secretary of State, to make sure Roxanne Roxstar, licensed plumber wasn't already taken. You'd be surprised how many people who they want for business names may be already taken. So check the Secretary of State's website. She went to the Secretary of State to make sure that business name is not already taken. Then filed paperwork to incorporate it as an LLC, and then receiving the paperwork to finalize that LLC incorporation. Then obtaining an EIN tax ID number with that LLC certificate at the IRS. All online from number 3. Number 3 can be done all online as long as because she got the paperwork that finalizes she's an LLC and is Roxanne Roxstar, licensed plumber now. Then what she did, she obtained a financial record keeping system and then opened a business bank account by presenting the business structure paperwork as an LLC and from step 3, the EIN number. Roxanne found help to guide her decisions at the City of Chicago. One of the agencies was a Small Business Navigator Agency, or a Small Business Opportunity Center, or a Small Business Neighborhood Development Center. That's how she knew to go through these 5 steps here in this example of how to become a legal business on paper. She decided to incorporate instead of being a sole proprietor, checked online at the Secretary of State to make sure her business name, Roxanne Roxstar, licensed plumber, isn't taken, filed paperwork, and then incorporated as an LLC, took that paperwork, went online to obtain a tax ID number with the IRS. At the same time, maybe an hour later, she went online and bought a financial record keeping system. 3 days later, maybe she went to, or 5 days later, she took that EIN number and the LLC certificate, presented it to the bank, and opened her separate business bank account. Again, these are the steps to become a legal business on paper, whether or not you incorporate or you are a sole proprietor. Here is another example of how you use a business bank account for financial record keeping. Now that Roxanne created her business bank account and secured financial record keeping, let's say she actually now has $2,000 in her personal account saved up for Roxanne Roxstar, licensed plumbing. And she wants to buy plumbing equipment. Before she spends the money to buy equipment for her business, what she did was she takes out that $2,000 she saved up in her day job, transferred it to her business bank account that she now set up. Then she uses the financial record keeping system to show that there's owner invested capital of $2,000 in Excel or QuickBooks and such. Now she can spend the money on equipment because now it's documented that her business is using $2,000 to spend on that business. But it's also documented that that $2,000 came from the owner. This also helps for accounting and your tax purposes, as well as funding opportunities. This type of record keeping is what you need to do, is an example of keeping your personal account separate from your business, but how you can also take money that you've saved from your personal savings and put it into your business. That's how funders know you have, quote unquote, skin in the game, because you have actually now documented you've taken $2,000, $3,000, $10,000 of your own money, and you have a paper trail to show that you've invested it in your business. Now, in starting a business, this is a lot of information, and I like to say it's like take it low and slow and easy, like that nice walk through the park that you need to do for a marathon. You want to walk the marathon because you have so many things that you are going to be moving along, and most of you are working in your day job to make this happen. You want to make sure that you're not speeding things so fast that you are missing the essential elements to legally be a business on paper and sustain in the long run financially. So one of the key things that we try to emphasize also is to manage your time to meet your goals. Schedule time to complete an action item. Maybe even break it up into small tasks. This is a challenge that my colleagues and I see is many business owners sometimes when they're starting up forget about time management. That is essential in making sure you are accomplishing your steps in starting your business. Time management. Manage your time. Schedule time to complete an action item. If you find that you keep having that same action item pushed on to the next day, then you maybe want to think, I want to maybe reprioritize this. I seem not to be doing this, even though I have it at the top of my list, because I keep pushing it off. That's when you use your list to reprioritize tasks and then reschedule projected deadlines. Make your list by task or tasks by day and by week, depending on your bandwidth. Assess how and why a task is helping you accomplish your business plan. People forget often to use technology to automate tasks to save time and money. Receipt scanning, here's my phone, I scan receipts on my phone, to sync up. Email scheduling apps to send emails, at 2 in the morning, but then you can send it at 7 in the morning so you don't look whack. Especially, for example, and people are wondering, why are you sending emails at 2 in the morning? It's okay. There are email scheduling apps that you can use. If you can afford, try to delegate work, even if it's temporary. Use an automated calendar schedule function. Many of us, especially women, are juggling home, work, families, personal lives, and growing a business. So try to use the automated calendar sync function so you can manage your schedules across your different responsibilities in your life. Finally, your health is also your wealth. Mindfully schedule time to support your physical and mental well-being. Take breaks. Make sure you're maybe moving every day. Do some mindfulness, pausing. Make sure that you're eating healthy. Make sure you're sleeping well, especially during COVID. Many individuals, especially owners of color, are feeling the effects and vicarious trauma of COVID and what's happening as a result around them, to their families, and their own lives. Make sure that you are taking time out to support yourself as well. I'm going to now move into financial foundations from success, how to managing your credit, avoiding predatory funding, and finding safe funding for your business. Now, let's say you've set up your business bank account. You're a legal business on paper, and then you went to set up your business bank account. You got your record-keeping system. This actually puts you in a better position now to gain funding. If you hadn't done that before, you may have only gotten $250. Well, maybe now you can get $15,000 because you set up proper financials and foundations for your business startup. Makes you more attractive to funders as a startup as well. Part of it is you actually also have to understand how credit will help you obtain funding to grow your business. Credit is actually an asset, and it helps you find safer financing for your business. There are 5 C's of credit as a business owner. Similar to personal credit, character. What's your credit history? Have you paid debts back on time? Cash flow. Do you have the money to repay the loan? Do you have the business revenue to repay back that loan? They're going to consider if you even have student loans, if you have a mortgage, you have other debts. The reason why is a responsible funder, a responsible lender, a responsible investor wants to make sure that at the end of the day, you can repay back a loan. They do not want to see you starving on the street because you can't pay back a loan. They want to make sure that you still have the ability to support yourself. So cash flow is important. There's also capital. This goes back to the importance of record keeping. Do you remember my previous example of Roxanne? And her record keeping showed that she would invest money from her personal bank account and transfer it to her business. Well, capital, lenders are going to want to see how much money of your own you have invested in your business. That's where the record keeping comes into play, and they can see that. They can see a record of that, how much you've actually invested in your business. Collateral, what property or assets can be pledged as security for funding? And conditions. Funders will also always assess, are there outside factors that can hit your business, such as industry? In this case, recently, of course, this year, with COVID, adverse economic conditions, but those are accounted for. This all is included in reviewing what your credit is. And it's also been managing your credit. Then I'm going to move into how you manage your credit. And this is important for you to access funding. 5 factors affect your personal credit score. This is your personal credit score and not your business credit. Business credit is completely different. Not all banks use business credit in order to assess funding. Business credit, unlike personal credit, is not uniform. There are different systems. So, and it depends on what industry you're in, whether or not it is necessary for you to have business credit. You could be a $10 million business. They will not ignore your personal credit. They will still look at your personal credit all the time, no matter if you're a $10,000 revenue business or a $10 million revenue business owner. Personal credit is always reviewed. What are 5 factors that help you manage your personal credit? Well, this is a huge one. Payment history. Have you at least made the minimum payment of your debt and on time? That's 35% of your credit score. The second highest percent that impacts your credit score is debt utilization. Are you using more than 25% or 30% of your total credit? And this doesn't mean just your Macy's credit card. This means all your credit. You know, your line of credit for your home, your credit cards, your auto loan, all your credit. Are you using, is there a high balance on your credit? Having high balances actually decreases your credit score by a few points. Your credit history. What is the age of all your accounts? How long have you had each loan? How long have you had each credit line? The next one less than credit history is credit checks and inquiries. I want to really focus on this, especially if for many of you who may have already started looking for funding or for loans. Even though it's only 10% of your credit score, credit entry, new credit checks, or what we call hard checks or hard pull on that credit, a formal official credit pull rather than what we call a soft pull, credit inquiries will impact your score 10%. It can go down in the double digits for every credit check that you have. What we are seeing in the time of COVID is that some owners are not aware that when they apply for a bridge loan while they're waiting a grant fund, and they may be applying for 3 bridge loans at once, they're actually pulling their credit score down by 30% if you apply for 3 loans at once for a hard credit. That is going to affect a double-digit decrease in your score, and it's going to take several weeks for it to cycle up. So if an owner is, if you are applying for several bridge loans at once while you await a grant fund that you've been awarded, but it's not going to come for 8 weeks, for instance, you really want to be careful about what you are applying for in terms of funding and how that's actually impacting your credit. Had one business owner the other day, they were savvy. They said, oh, I can't apply for this. I just applied for this, and I know that brought my credit score down when I applied for this loan at this community bank. So I'm going to wait because I don't want that to ding my credit so much that it makes me ineligible in case I need more credit 6 months from now. Again, it's forecasting not only the revenues that you may have, but you also want to forecast what's going to happen if you draw too much down on applying for a loan and there is a required credit check for it. And then, of course, the last one that impacts is the types of credits. Do you have a mix of installment loans, credit loans to manage your credit? I did want to focus on the credit inquiries, though, because it's very important that you understand that can impact multiple credit pulls or applications, will severely impact your score, and it will take several weeks to a few months to even maybe a year for it to cycle up if it decreases dramatically just from credit inquiries. So be careful about that. And the reason why you want to manage your personal credit is you want to decrease your expenses to save money for your home and business. Again, it does help you access capital and credit for your business, especially during the time of COVID, but you need to manage your credit wisely because it is an asset that will actually convert to a debt once you draw down on it, ironically. It also, managing your credit will assuredly increase your financial wellness and your well-being as you grow your business. It'll be one less headache, essentially. So when you are seeking funding, you're probably wondering, well, where do I start? You do want to ask yourself some questions. What do you need the money for? How much money do you actually need? How long is it going to take for you to pay it back? Did you just buy an automobile for your car service and you're looking for additional funding, but you still owe on that automobile? Be aware of where your revenue is going and how long it will take to pay it back. What's the current financial shape of your business? This is the importance of financial statements and statements like a balance sheet. How long have you been in business does impact the funding you need as a startup. The longer you've been in business, or if you have shown that you've been an owner for this exact type of business before, that's a plus. For instance, if you're going to go in the food business, but you've only been a server or the front of the house, that's not the same as running a food business. And that's going to impact the funding that you get. It's a surprise for many, but running the business behind the scenes is far different than running front of the house. And this is why it's important to have a good financial foundation for success for your business in order for it to survive. It's a mistake many people make. It's a mistake that we see often when people feel that they've worked in the industry but not on the back end, understanding operations and financials, they automatically assume that that's the same as running a business. Having experience in that industry is not the same as having experience running such a business in that industry. If you do have experience running a similar business that you want to start up, that is a big bonus for you. Another question you want to ask yourself is, do I have any collateral to put up for the loan? Especially as a startup. Banks want to invest in production, not possibilities, because they get their money back on production. So it's a little bit more challenging to get funding as a startup. The other one is, are you seeking debt or equity financing? There are different types of financing that are out there. Illinois SBDC network, a center in the Illinois Small Business Development Center can help. A center within the City of Chicago Business Affairs and Consumer Protection can also assist you as well with some of these questions. This is free assistance, open to everybody. For instance, I could drive. I'm not going to fly to Los Angeles at this time, but I could conceivably, go into a small business center and get some free help there. These are SBA resources for you. Now, I do want to caution, though, that when you are seeking funding, there are safe funding sources like banks, nonprofit lenders such as CDFIs, and credit unions. But there's also predatory lending that is out there. Predatory lending is a growing problem. In fact, we've seen a steady decline in small business lending since the last recession. And what's happened is that online lenders have stepped in to fill the void. The problem is online lenders, as great as some of them are, they're not all responsible and they're not all safe. The reason being is that online lending is not regulated by the federal government at this time. Again, online lending is not regulated by the federal government at this time. Even vendor loans are not regulated. So if you do business on a marketplace online and they offer loans for you, just understand that as legitimate as that platform may be, the loans that they offer are still not regulated on the eyes of the federal government. So online lending is not regulated. There are 4 types of unregulated online lenders: marketplace lenders, which connects investors to funds and term loans. Funding Circle, Lending Club are examples. By the way, Small Business Majority is one of the 7 founding members of the Responsible Business Lending Coalition. The Responsible Business Lending Coalition is a coalition of lenders and supporters who want to support policies that enact fair business lending. We have created the Small Business Borrowers Bill of Rights. I want to go back to the screen is that the type of unregulated lenders that are out there are marketplace lenders, payment vendor loans. Many business owners use them, but just be cautious. Payment vendor loans such as PayPal and such, they have very short terms. So you are responsible to make sure that you have the ability to pay back those loans. It can be tough if you are not forecasting your cash flow and your revenue. There's online cash flow lenders as well. They offer short-term loans. And this is tricky. Online cash flow lenders, they're going to require payback, but in order to do that, they're going to ask for access to your bank account and your payment systems. They may deduct. This is where the predatory component comes in. They may deduct from your bank account or your payment systems even if you have no sales for that day or that week, based on what you may have signed. And the reason they can do that is, again, online lending is not regulated, and they do not have to be transparent as to what you sign. The last type of online lenders is known in the lending industry as the merchant cash advance, and it's also known in the lending industry as the payday loans for small business. It can be a successful tool, but for such a very, very, very small number of business owners. Unless you understand your business finances in and out, you are forecasting your cash flow, you are working with a counselor at an SBDC or WBC or a BACP City of Chicago, MBDC or Navigator agency, check with one of them first before you take on an online loan. especially a merchant cash advance. Here again, Small Business Majority is proud to be a founding organization and a continued active leading partner nationally with the Responsible Business Lending Coalition. We have helped to lead the first legislation here in Illinois, which I was proud to be a part of starting to address small business lending. Unfortunately, that bill did not pass, but our offices in California were successful in passing legislation, and we've been successful also on the East Coast. We are hoping that for the next administration, we are able to pass a national small business borrowers bill of rights that's applicable and extends the consumer protection law to small businesses as well. So be very careful about lending. If you would like to access more information on how to navigate different types of lending that is out there as a startup, please visit our venturize.org webpage. It's a free hub where you can access tools to determine, what type of loans are there, who offers them, but it's also on benefits for you, whether you're self-employed or you're an employer-based firm. There's also a tip sheet, how to avoid predatory lending, that you can find on venturize.org, how to avoid predatory lending during COVID-19 as well. We've shared this with our partners nationally, SBA and such. We share this afterwards on our webinars. But that's where you can access a tip sheet on starting up to avoid finding funds and avoiding predatory lending. Other help for your business, you can also visit the Venturize homepage for nonprofit assistance and free assistance by the Illinois Small Business Development Centers for free assistance. That's a network of SBA centers that are called the Small Business Development Centers. There's over 1,000 of these centers nationwide, and they offer free assistance in person and virtually to help you assess and grow your business, whether it's from your business model to your business plan to how to create a separate business bank account, incorporate, and also navigating funding. Also have a wonderful partnership with Pacific Community Ventures, PCV. They're a CDFI, again, a nonprofit community lender. They also offer free remote assistance at businessadvising.org. They're a nonprofit. If you are looking for capital that's not predatory, please visit our partner site, Community Reinvestment Fund. They have a wonderful platform called Connect to Capital. It's a matching tool to connect you to a CDFI. Again, that's the nonprofit lenders, mission-based lenders who understand life happens. CDFIs for funding. Don't forget to visit the Illinois State Treasurer page to finding relief programs and bridge loans at community banks and credit unions. And also our Illinois Department of Commerce and Opportunity page always has resources on the most up-to-date funding, including grants for small business owners during COVID. We sometimes ask if there are grants for startups. Less so, to be honest, during this time. Many agencies and funders want to help the existing businesses that have been proven to help secure jobs and such. That doesn't mean there's no funding. It's just that there is not as much free grant funding available for startups. But there is still support and funds available. So please visit that webpage and our webpage. With that, I'm going to turn it to also finally, before I move on to questions, how do you be involved in Small Business Majority? We're not a membership group, but we are a nonprofit, a 501c3. So by simply signing up for our newsletter, go to www.smallbusinessmajority.org. I'm going to type it in the box. And sign up for our newsletter. That's how you can become engaged with us. You can also share your story with us if you would like, in terms of how your business is doing during this time of COVID. What more business relief does it need as well? We also have webinars And we also help to tell your story in a letter to the editor in the op-ed. So with that, I'm going to now turn to questions, Elisa, that people may have had.
Great. First of all, thank you so much. I feel like you covered so much information, but all of it was so valuable. So thank you for sharing that insight with us this morning. We do have several questions that came in, a few on business plans. First question is, are there specific tools to help flesh out the various components of the business plan?
Some of the tools that you may be able to find is with an SBA resource called SCORE. SCORE.org is an SBA resource. It's two parts. It's online with resources such as how you can flesh out that business plan better with questions that you can ask yourself and self-assess. But they also have certain volunteers they have a network of volunteers who are former business owners and can help you flesh out that business plan. And then, of course, above all, cannot stress enough the Illinois SBDC network to find that free assistance, as well as many of the BACP organizations, delegate agencies, that are designated as small business opportunity centers or navigator agencies during the time of COVID to help get in-person or virtual assistance on that. As far as a tool, if you go to sba.gov and even SCORE, you can find some great resources on there to help you do a self-assessment of what you need to do to complete that business plan.
Thank you. Another question relating to business plan is, if you are having difficulty defining parts of your business plan, does that mean your business idea is not viable?
No, not necessarily. You just need some a different perspective from, for instance, a counselor at a small business development center who is well-versed, and those counselors have previous business experience in running successful businesses, and they can help flesh out those business plans for you. There's also, whether or not it's viable, your business model, whether or not it's viable. Sometimes you just need a second ear to bounce back and ask you questions of whether or not, it's a viable business plan or a viable business idea and a model, and how sustainable it would be. A wonderful example I like to use is my own cousin, who his business plan started off as basically, or a business idea model started off as creating an online record for your pet. And I said to him, I remember this, and I think I still have my text, why? I can do that in Excel for my dog. And essentially, it evolved because he got feedback on it from resources and, got into cohorts where he applied. It didn't cost him anything, of other people who were starting up his business. He grew that idea of essentially what was then, I told him, we all said, it seems like an Excel spreadsheet, to a data analytics software company that he then sold. And he got it over the course of four to 5 years. It grew into a technological data company in Silicon Valley, all from the idea of a spreadsheet for tracking your pet's health and records, to that, because somebody said to him, what's your niche? What are your skills? What do you know? And he's like, well, I do computers. I have a master's in this and technology. I do data. And they were able to help shape him, and for him to step outside of the box to see what skills, knowledge, and attitudes he had that he could contribute, and the industry had for him to grow his business model. So sometimes you just need that outside help, and he got a lot of free assistance for that.
Wow, I love that story. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I still to this day, I tell that story, I'm like, I still can't believe it went from tracking your pet's health to that you've sold it as a company. So, yeah.
Oh, that's very cool. Next question, still relating to business plan, is, are there examples of the business plans and budget worksheets available on your website?
No, not on our website. It will more or less navigate concepts, but what we like to do is we have wonderful partners at the SBA. They've got great examples of the business plans and different models through SBA. And also many of our SBDCs may also have them for download as well. Not even in Illinois, across the country you may see it. So if you type in business plan, Women's Business Center, Small Business Development Center, SBA score, you'll find a plethora of information that's out there, tools that you can download. And just simply find one that works best for your style.
Good. Can you please share info about legals? What is, for you, the best company to insure liabilities as well separated for a small business, such as restaurant catering?
As I said earlier, there are two types of structures that you can use for your business. One is you can decide to be a sole proprietor and get a doing business as certificate. Completely legitimate. Billions are sole proprietors in this country. The other one is to incorporate, and there are three ways to incorporate. As a single member LLC, you can also do a partner, but most common is single member LLC. As an S corp or a single member LLC, S corp, and C corp partnership. So the incorporating as an LLC will protect your personal assets. It does, and you would then, as an LLC, you record your income still on your personal income taxes under a schedule, and the same with doing business as. There's not a separate tax form for that when it comes time to file your annual personal income taxes.
Thank you. Next question is, where can we find market/industry data, especially recent ones?
Oh, a great partner of ours and the city's is at the City of Chicago Public Library. They've got a wonderful database there where you can find market industry data by NAICS codes, industry codes as well. And I can't remember off the top of my head what that database is, but that's where you can find some market industry data in regards to the industry that you're dealing with. Also, read the industry newspapers. If you're in food or in beverage, for instance, make sure that you're reading the news from the Illinois Restaurant Association about what's going on. Are you getting their newsletters? Are you even getting news from the mayor's office and BACP about what's happening with restrictions and COVID for food and beverage? Make sure that you're immersing yourself in the industry news at both the industry level, but also I would say the City of Chicago is a wonderful site if you're operating a business in the city for something such as food and beverage, but they've also accounted, I know, Lisa, your agency has accounted for also addressing other types of industry businesses during COVID. And that's especially important is operating your business in the time of COVID as well, and understanding not only the city, but the county and the state's restrictions or guidance in operating your business. That is essential for also understanding your industry and operating, and whether you provide a service or a product.
Good. Simple question of, are these loans and tips applicable to online businesses?
Yes, absolutely.
Next question, is it wise in these uncertain times to run a food truck operation from a commercial/shared space kitchen as opposed to a freestanding brick and mortar?
Well, again, this is why we talk about at the end of the day, it's also about the numbers. Knowing your numbers, making sure you set up that business bank account and your record keeping systems, both financial and non-financial. Most especially the financial, run those numbers to see if you have the ability to pay the cost of securing a food truck running a food truck, and will you get the revenue to cover your costs and still earn an income, or at very least break even? If you were to secure a space, there is, of course, a check on your credit. You want to make sure that you are not signing a lease that is triple net. That means that you are responsible not only for the rent, but then you're responsible for the taxes and the upkeep. That's a deal killer for many small businesses, and they unknowingly may sign triple net leases. We may see an increase in that, though, because many of the small businesses are also landlords if they're not a corporate property holder, and they need to make money. So they may push on an increased cost for that. You want to make sure you have a lawyer, especially. That's all building into the cost of securing a brick and mortar as well. And do you have the revenue to cover the cost of running that brick and mortar, whether or not you have to take a loan on it? That's another cost that you have to pay back if you're going to take a loan out. And there's a consideration with the brick and mortar that you have to work with the city to get licenses. Oftentimes, what's going to hold an owner back is if you move ahead without getting the proper licenses and inspections. And what happens is that the last thing you'd want to see is putting money towards opening a brick and mortar, only in the end to find out that you didn't work with the city to properly get your licenses and inspections all the time that you were paying rent on it. So be very careful about that. And it's important to run the numbers, but it's also important to understand that if you secure a brick and mortar, you've got to build in time for conditionals and backup plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Honestly, not just A, B, C, because of the time it may take to secure that space, and that time costs money. Let your numbers tell your narrative and the direction where you're going.
Next question is, when you have a separate business account, how do you pay yourself?
From that business account, you will have in your QuickBooks, for instance, your software that you will be dispersed, depending on what your revenue is, and paying all your costs at the end of the day, your salary. You want to make sure that you have a salary that you pay yourself. If you're starting up and you notice, hey, God, it's been 3 years, 4 years, I'm still not making anything, or actually, after all the effort I put in, I find out I'm only making $2,000, that's where your business records, financial records, is going to be key to understanding how much you pay yourself. Are you meeting your goal, the revenue goals that you can pay yourself? That's how you pay yourself. I mean, technically speaking or operationally speaking, you would have a deduction, or you'd work to see look at your accounts to see how much you've made to pay yourself something, or break even and not pay yourself. At least your business is surviving.
And before we go to the last question, Geri, can you go back one slide for the contact information?
Sure. No.
Great. So right there.
No. Oops.
There it is. Perfect. So if your question did not get answered, here is Geri's email address and phone number. So reach out to her if you have more in-depth and personal questions. So we are going to end with, what are some tools to determine a startup budget?
Some tools to determine startup budget, that really depends on what business you're in. For instance, if you are starting your own consulting business at home as a lawyer, you are thinking, I don't want to use my personal printer. I need a color printer. That's going to be a one-time cost. So you put that in. Okay, I'm going to need business cards. I actually want to sign. I want people to come through my back door, to come and work in the back office. I don't want them to come through my front door. That's another expense. Think through the one-time expenses that you need in starting your business. You're going to have to secure software for your financial record keeping. That's another expense. So think about the one-time cost that you need in terms of your supplies, your other working capital that you need, and that will be your start of expenses, and some of them may just continue to become operating expenses.
Great, thank you. And just a quick note that this webinar is being recorded and it will be available for later viewing on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Chicago BACP. So you'll be able to head over there and reference anything that Geri talked about during this webinar. So once again, Geri, thank you so much for your time this morning, for sharing resources, insights, plans, everything. I think we're all ready to start a business now.
Thanks. And please sign up for our newsletters. We have bi-weekly webinars with SBA where we talk more in depth about seeking funding during COVID and non-COVID periods.
Great. And those are both city resources and partners of ours. So please head over there to sign up for the newsletter and stay informed. So thank you again so much, and have a good rest of your day, everyone. Thank you, Geri.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you all.
Bye.